Assalamu alaikum. This is part 2 in the Kitab Tawheed regarding the stones, the rocks, the trees. We're going to do a slight recap here because I want to make sure that my ultimate goal here is to speak about the Christmas tree in America. But we need a prelude because without the prelude, you're not going to really appreciate what a serious issue this is. All over the world, I told you in the previous lesson, I said this is all over the world, worshiping stones and trees. And not only that, right now we're going to discuss the 3 types of stone worship temples, or whatever you want to call it, pyramids, whatever you want to call it. It's worldwide, and it's only recently they've discovered that so many of them are in Central America, Latin America. They are not just Egyptian pyramids. They've made one of those, I don't know what they do up in the sky. They have drone photography. I don't even know the words. They do things. They can watch you from up there. I don't care. Allah's watching better than they do. But they've proven that there are pyramids all over the world. And a lot of them are hidden and need to be dug up. So all the concentration that we've been giving on the Egyptian one, so far so good, but we're going to have to do a lot more. People are obsessed with worshiping idols and things that they build. Think about this one for a minute. Before I get into the real haqq, which is Kitab Tawheed, I always form, you can say, parallels with what I know as a modern woman in America. What about Blackrock? Why did they call this criminal enterprise Blackrock? You know, it's all about international finance and mercenaries and going around the world and fomenting rebellion and killing people who even blink the wrong eye or bat the eyelash the wrong way. Ooh, Blackrock's going to get you. The whole thing. Think about why they named it Blackrock. Why did they do that? So it could be opposite of the black stone, maybe, which is the real object of worship. This is how my mind works. I don't know if your mind works that way, but it might after you hear this chapter. So now let's begin with, and like he always does, he does always start with verses from the Quran. So in this time, he would say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Afara'aytum al-Lata wal-Uzza. That's from Surah Najm. Then he goes on and on and on about referring to what he's saying they like to do is to take biyut, qibab, wal hajar. So they like to make like a biyut, like a home or a domicile. Would it be the pyramid? Well, that's the home for the dead in Egypt. That's what we studied. And then al-qubab would be domes. They like to put domes on things that are special. And then any form of a rock formation. You know the Druids, they're around Ireland somewhere and they can't figure out yet where they came from, but they know that they're very seriously spooky. They have all these yarns, they call it the old Irish yarns about the Druids and who were they? They were these giant men who had all this knowledge, etc. So I'm just going over a glossary of some things that you might be able to relate to. Okay, now, let's go back down here where he mentions them again in more detail. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ ثَالِثَ الْأُخْرَى. So now we're talking about the third one of these idols. So they never would give you much to really go on about what these things mean. They're just saying they were old Arab stories. And Allah is referring to them in the Quran. So now, let's see if we can get a little bit more information that would make sense to us. تقرأ بتشديد التاء. He's telling you how to pronounce this lat. وتخفيفها وتشديدها قرأ ابن Abbas. So Ibn Abbas read it like this. فعلى قراءة التشديد تكون اسم فاعل من اللات. من اللات. اسم الفاعل اللات. وكان هذا الصنم أصله رجل يلت سويق للحجاج. So he's giving you one of these stories of the seerah, i.e. يجعل فيه الثمن. وَيَطْعَمُهُ الْحِجَاج. He was feeding Hujaj something fatty. فَلَمَا مَات, and when he died, عَقَفُوا عَلَى قَبْرِهِ وَجَعَلَهُ صَنَمًا. You know, this superstitious stuff, you can't make sense of it. They just pick out something weird and then they decide to make it important. So he's referring to this now. وَأَمَا عَلَى قَرَاءَةِ التَّخْفِيف, and he's giving you, as I mentioned before, the different ways of reading the words in Quran. فَأَنَ اللَّاتَ مُشْتَقَ مِنْ Allah. See, this is a theory, that the word Lat comes from Allah, أو من إله, هم اشتقوا من أسماء Allah, أسماء الله الحسنى, and they turn it into a sanam. So they take something good and they twist it, and then وَسَمُوهُ لَات وَهِيَ لِأَهْلِ طَائِفٍ وَمِنْ حَوْلِهِمْ مِنَ الْعَرَبِ. Now you know the Ahl Ta'if were cruel to Prophet Muhammad. They beat him up. So there's a connection here somewhere way back. وَقَالُوا الْعُزَّى مُؤَنَّثَ عَزْ. It's the feminine form of A'az. وَهُوَ السَّنَمْ يَعْبَدُ قُرَيْش. The Quraysh worshipped this sanam. وَبَنُو كَنَانَ, another tribe, مُشْتَقَّ مِنْ إِسْمَ اللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ كَانَ يَتَخَلَّفَ بَيْنَ مَكَّةَ وَطَائِفٍ. So they lived between Mecca and Ta'if. Well, now we'll take the third one and the last one. I really don't like giving them all this credence and giving them all this attention. We're talking about idols that were worshipped by the Arabs. The Arabs get a bad rap, you know, when you really start studying and going in depth. What were they famous for? Highway robbery, overindulgence, burying daughters, cruelty, denial of Prophet Muhammad, persecution of Prophet Muhammad. What are they famous for that we could say is good? Well, poetry. Prophet Muhammad said it's better to fill your stomach with pus, putrid pus, than it is to fill it with poetry, meaning your inner core. Well, they were really into poetry. They had poetry contests. They love it. Prophet Muhammad didn't love it. So now, if we stop and think about the Arabs, what are they doing today? Prophet Muhammad said in a true hadith, وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا اقْتَرَبَ. Beware, you Arabs, of the evil that has come very close to you. So I would always ask, what is the meaning of the word Arab? I would search for this, and I found it. You search long enough. They used to teach us, Jesus said, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. Well, this is very Islamic as well, because Jesus was a Muslim. So I found the meaning of the word Arab, Araba, it's had nothing to do with race or skin color or straight dark black hair or curly hair or brown eyes. No. Araba means eloquence. It means to be able to speak in such a way that you really are explicitly correct in a beautiful formation of choosing vocabulary and expressing syntactical eloquence. That's where we get the word elocution. Here's something funny. All these connections come about when you get older. When I was a young girl, you know, my dad was rich and he was a big deal in the church, and so yada, yada. What else? And I was raised in nun school from the time I was 4 until I ran out of it. I mean, I got out of it at 15 because I just couldn't take it anymore. But they were excellent teachers, and they treated me special, of course, because I'm a dad. This is what I don't like about reality, you know. Kids from certain families get treated differently from other children. That's why the sociologists love to talk about nature or nurture, which one is more important. And anyway, I don't know how it started. All I know was when I was probably 9 years old. I was about 9, perhaps, 3rd or 4th grade. Suddenly I found myself in an after-school program where I was the only student. I don't ever recall discussing this with any teacher or with my parents. I told you my parents didn't pay a lot of attention to any of us. We were 8. I swear they never looked at our report cards. I mean, it was just Irish stuff. You talk to any Irish person, and you're going to get the same story, whether it's second generation, third generation, whatever. They really had such faith in the Catholic Church and angels and all of that. They never worried about us. They would just copulate and have children and then let them go to whichever way the wind blows. That's why we didn't care. And that's how we became who we are today. We all have the same characteristics. I don't care. The Irish, we'll get that when I give you my history channel, you're going to get a lot of this. But suffice it to say, Al-an, now, Eliakfikum, it's enough to tell you that I found myself in this class after school where I had to go twice a week. Nobody discusses it. They just say, you're going to go to Miss Fleming and you're going to have this after school thing twice a week. I'll never forget it as long as I live. I walk in this room down in the, it wasn't on the first or second or third floor because my school had 3 floors. I think it was either the first floor or under the first floor. And I walk in the room and there's this very ominous presence sitting at the desk. And I looked at her and I thought, oh my, she's not a nun. She was dressed in a beautiful purple, very fashionable for the day, covered, but very beautiful with some jewelry. And she had this beautiful white, in the old days, they would put a purple rinse if you had white hair or gray hair. So it would make it almost a violet tone to match her dress. And she was quite stout, if I recall. She reminded me of my grandmother. She was a big woman. And she said, come in, Mary Diane. I'm Miss Fleming. And I said, I didn't know what to say because I was so used to nuns in the school, sister, sister, sister. So I just smiled and I said, hello. And she said, I am going to be your elocution teacher. That's a big word for a little kid. I said, what? She said, an elocution teacher, so that you can become eloquent. That's what your dad wants for you. This is how they used to treat us. I'm telling you, it's no joke. I said, my dad? I'm thinking my dad could care less about school. All he does is go to work and stay there. He'd leave the house at 7 a.m. and come home at 6 p.m, and we hardly saw him until he took us to things like yacht shows, car shows, circuses. May he rest in peace. He was all about having a good time. So I said, what's that? And she said, elocution means to be eloquent. And I'm just like still glazed over. What are you talking about? And she said, it means you will be a public speaker and you will learn how to influence people by just your tone, not only your tone, but your choice of words and your demeanor. And she's talking to me like I'm a freshman in college. Didn't know what she was talking about. But I was polite. That's how they train you in parochial schools, Catholic schools. You just speak when you're spoken to and you react the way they want you to react to, which is robotic. So I'm thinking she's taking me out on another tangent that I don't even know what she's talking about. So she said, we're going to start with tongue twisters, which is how everyone starts when they want to be eloquent. So you're going to have to repeat after me. She sells seashells down by the seashore, quickly, fast. I said, huh? She said, just say it 3 times really fast. And I said, she sells seashells down by the seashore. She said, again, she sells seashells down by the seashore, again. And she was loving it because I didn't make a mistake. And then she said, very good. Okay, now you're going to do Peter Pepper packed a peck of pickled peppers. I'm serious. I remember like this was yesterday. And of course, she didn't say sit down. I had to stand so I could become an orator. Again, that was... Here it is. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How many pecks of pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? And I had So she said, oh, you're very good. I think we'll just do this a few more times in this week, and you don't have to do that anymore. What did we do for the rest of the time? I had to read, I don't even remember what they were. I had to read stories. I had to read poetry. I had to recite poetry. I had to memorize poetry. This whole thing was my dad's idea to make me stand out in the public sphere, because being Irish, you have to know how important it is to spin a yarn. That's why they're all the best politicians. That's why most of the Irish became political figures in Boston and still are today. Now, I'm going to give you one more vignette and we're going to come back to the book, because I feel that these little offsides, these episodes, make it come alive a little bit. This. When I was a new Muslim, actually a new Muslim in knowledge, I had been a Muslim perhaps at that time for, well, it's 40 years now, so let's say 20 years ago. When I first came back, left Egypt because my husband wanted my son to be educated in America. So I found a masjid, and it was actually an African-American masjid. Actually, it was the oldest masjid in Boston. And it was all Black people, but that's okay because I like Black people. And they asked me to give lessons there, and I did. And there's so many things I can tell you about that part of my life. Is beautiful, but I'll do that in the history when I open my new channel. And suddenly one day a woman comes, a new woman, she comes rushing in, like very, and Latifa. And she sat down and she said, oh, I'm so happy to meet you. You don't know, I've been hearing about you. I know you've been here a couple of weeks. I'm sorry, I work full time and I work at the State House. So I had to put you on my calendar and I had to get to you. And I said, huh, what? Just another time where I didn't understand what's going on. And most people aren't eloquent. They can't really describe what they're doing very well. She said, listen, I know you're Irish, and I'm here to congratulate you and tell you we are so happy to have you, because I work in the State House, and I am the secretary to whatever they call them, the mayor. Yeah, that's what they call them, Mayor of Boston. And of course, they're all Irish. You see, it's the Irish mafia that runs Boston. She said, we really need you. We want you. We need you. We want you. Please come and take a position I can get you the best, any position you want. Just be with us at the State House, because we're African American. Nobody really gives us much attention as Muslims. But if you would come on board and you've been educated in Egypt, you would do so much for our cause. I said, what cause? What do you mean you're the cause? Because I hate politics, so I didn't tell her that, but I'm religion. I want to teach you Quran and the meaning of the Arabic words and teach you Arabic. And she said, our cause, so we could be recognized, so that we could be given respect. And I said, oh, Sister Latifa, you don't understand. I would hurt your cause. She said, what do you mean? I said, because I know myself. I would make problems in the State House. She said, how could you make problems? You're Muslim. You're my sister. I said, because the Irish that you worship, that you think has such power, that you love so much, not me, because I'm not following my clan all that much. I'm trying to learn what the Prophet Muhammad did, and I'm trying to do that. But we do have this tendency to be rather explosive and not very easy to deal with. My way or the highway is kind of how Irish people are, which is why I guess they raise up in the ranks of politics, because they have a combination of being silver-tongued devils, they're called, and at the same time they're glad-handers and they're backslappers, like my dad. So I refused, and that didn't go over very well, but I think people understand now. They understand. So let's get back to the idols that were worshipped by the Arabs way back when, and we're just going to do this last part. الثالثة الأخرى. So we're talking about Lati wal Uzza wa Thalat al Ukhra and how we're bringing in the pyramids here. And they're teaching us, as though I didn't know all of this from social studies way back when, that the God Trilogy, and they say Horus, who is it in Egypt? Horus, Isis, and Osiris. Yes. Egypt has its own three, but I didn't know, but they taught us this in social studies, that all of these false gods come in threes. Isn't that interesting? Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, you mean? Yeah. Is it coming together now? Are you starting to get it? I hope so. So now, we'll go to the last bits about these false idols made of stone and how dangerous it is. Here it says, a verse, they always put in these random Quran verses, but they really do fit in very well. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ. Allah says if you take your vain desires as your ilah, meaning what you worship, you will not get knowledge. So in order to get knowledge, you have to get rid of all these vain desires that have come through, usually your family, your parents, and traditions. We call it adat wa taqalid. Now let's talk about Christmas, the tree. Because, I'd like to keep this under a half an hour. Because I want to, guess what we're doing next time? This part of this book is getting really now explosive. We're going to talk about burials and graves. We're talking about sacrifices. Oh, the Eid is coming up. The big Eid is coming up. This whole halal thing and how do you sacrifice and how you're not allowed to sacrifice this way and there. Oh, yeah, you're going to love this one, the one coming up. The Christmas tree. I don't have to tell any American the value of the Christmas tree. But before, I want to mention the value of the cedar chest. Now, Allah mentions in these verses the sidr. Sidr, it's a cedar tree. By the way, the cedar tree is the national flag of Lebanon. It's a very Christian symbol. Lebanon was a country that was cut off from Greater Syria to be a Christian power enclave. We're going to get to this in the History Channel, but not just now. I just want to let you know about the cedar and the sidr. Buddha claimed enlightenment under the lotus tree. The lotus tree is how they translate it, when in fact it is a cedar tree. Prophet Muhammad went up to the heavens you can call it the Isra, meaning he went up to meet all the prophets, as you know, on Isra and Miraj. I don't want to get too complicated because all of this stuff, you have to already kind of feel it and know it before you can actually comprehend it, digest it, and believe it. So I hope you're going to trust me because I don't lie to you. The Christmas tree, they call it the pine tree, right? No, it's a cedar tree. How do I know? Because of the way it smells, especially anyone from up in the Northeast. Have you ever smelled the beautiful smell of a Christmas tree? It's beyond belief how beautiful it is. That's why we used to keep it for so long after the holiday, and people would say, no, you can't let it dry out. It's the cause of fires, and we're supposed to throw it out in 2 weeks, and all these things I grew up with. But anyway, the cedar chest is one of those traditions. Not anymore. But when we were young, and my mom and her mom, and way back when you were going to get married, it was a big deal to be engaged, to be married. And they made you wait. You couldn't just elope. That was not Catholic. So the cedar chest was a wooden chest that you would buy at a good deal of expense because they weren't cheap. And you would keep it in your room when you were unmarried. And you would fill your cedar chest with all the things you wanted to start your married life off. And mainly it would be filled with beautiful negligees and lovely dresses and then household goods, etc. So I remember the cedar chest was such a tradition, but it was only a tradition, I thought, for Catholics, till I went to Egypt and found out that they had the same tradition. They didn't call it a cedar chest because it's a desert climate. It's too hot over there, but they had a chest that they would stock up and fill up for their marriage. All right, put that on one side now. Let's talk about the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree was made to be decorated. Now, here we come. The Sahaba, when they were new, straight out of Jahiliyyah, they used to hang their swords for barakah on a special tree. And Prophet Muhammad prohibited them from doing this. He said, this is Jahiliyyah. You're asking now what Musa asked, what the Banu Israel asked Musa when they had a problem with him when he went up on the mountain. And, well, you know the story of Musa. He led them out of Israel, and then they stopped obeying him. They were supposed to obey him all the way through, but they didn't obey him, so they got lost in the wilderness for 40 years. We're going to do a lot of this good stuff in the next channel. But anyway, getting back to this Christmas tree story, they said, we're not worshiping it. Look, here's what it says right here. They are not worshiping it for ibadah. They only wanted barakah. So now here you have to discern what is ibadah and what is simply barakah. Is one worse than the other? Yeah, ibadah means worship. So you do things for this particular idol. That's why they say the TV show American Idol. What is an idol? It's something you're facing, you're obsessed with, you can't live without, you have to do repetitive behaviors for it, you feel tied to it, you feel it can help you or hurt you. All of these things, that's ibadah. That's where you have to exclusivize Allah in the ibadah. We don't let any partners share in our worship of Him. But the barakah, I just like to touch it. It gives me blessings. It makes me happy. Tradition, like the Christmas tree. Okay, how simple is the Christmas tree? Is it something really harmless and cute? You're decorating it. You're hanging on it. Depends on the time. It used to be homemade popcorn, and you'd string it with thread back in the old days before they had shops that you could buy literally globes with sequins and everything else glued on it. Candy canes. We always had the red and white striped candy canes that you would hang on it, like the staff of Musa. Decorating the tree was the most important part, I think, of a child's life. If you go throughout the year and you think about how much fun Halloween was, getting the candy, you think about the Easter bunny that would leave chocolate in front of your door. And when you'd wake up, you'd open your door and there'd be this big chocolate Easter bunny. And the eggs were chocolate too. It was amazing. Halloween is all about candy. Easter is always all about candy. And then what other holidays we would have? 4th of July was about firecrackers, and I never liked them. I didn't like to look at them going up there. I personally, my opinion is, it's an insult to Allah. I never liked fireworks. You're putting all these stars and sparkles and noise, where? Right up to the sky. What's your point there? All right, don't call me Taliban. Don't call me ISIS. Don't call me Daesh. Call me an intuitive, insightful believer. I hope so. That's what I am. That's what I want to be. I want to expose all these idols and teach you why they're idols. Okay, if that's not enough for you, why does the American government have to do a Christmas tree lighting every year? They have a formality wherein the president has to light the tree. So the tree is dark. Then they light the tree. I think it's Christmas Eve they do it. And it sparkles and everybody says, yay, it's Christmas. I think it's symbolic of materialism, consumerism. They would call it a tradition. It's not an idol. It's got nothing to do with Lati and Uzza and Manat. Oh, really? You don't think so? So why is it a formality, literally, that presidents do every year? I'm going to give you another one. Arlington Cemetery. I have about 2 more minutes. This one could get me in big trouble, but as you know, I don't care. 77 and a half. I keep saying I'll be 80 soon. It makes me sound like an old oracle, which is not a bad thing, I suppose. Arlington Cemetery has something called the Eternal Flame. That eternal flame, you know, Arlington Cemetery, you probably don't now in this generation, because they don't teach anyone anything. It's where those who have died in battle are buried. And it's near the Capitol in Washington, D.C. And these people are all buried with crosses. Oh, isn't that quaint? Well, what if you're not a Christian? That's another story. Look up Arlington Cemetery and you'll know what I'm talking about. I was raised in Arlington, Massachusetts. I don't know if there's any connection, but, you know, all my relatives that served in the war, I don't know how many of the men were buried there. I don't really think about it much, but my dad's not buried there. He's buried in a regular grave. But see, he was sent home. He had jungle rot. He was in Okinawa. He only served for a year when his legs started to rot, so they sent him back. Anyway, the eternal flame has to be constantly lit and is not allowed to go out. And it can never go out. Why is that? What does that signify? Fire worshippers. Prophet Muhammad mentioned them. They're called the Majus, the old Persian religion that worship fire. So now, is fire symbolic of anything? Yeah, hell. Hell. Not only hell? Only hell? Well, usually when you talk about fire, I'm on fire, the rock singers would say. Oh, you light a fire in me. All this stuff, it is significant of something. And I just say, the fireworks, they call them fireworks, 4th of July, send the fireworks up to the sky. So I believe the Christmas tree represents a mindset. Is it just a Christian mindset? No, because really it doesn't. Jesus' birthday was not on Christmas. You know, it's all like they're uncovering now all the loopholes in the narrative, holes in the narrative, but it's still very powerful. I believe in a way it represents consumerism, unbridled consumerism. So if you just buy into this tree thing and decorate it, you're on the right track now. You're going to be happy because you're going to deal in riba, interest. It's the American way, isn't it? Well, it didn't used to be back in the day, but it is now. Everyone's getting loans and everyone's getting into debt, and now they're it's just kind of funny. I'll just close with this because it's 33 minutes, and you know I can go on, and I have to stop myself. But I was wondering why the president of Egypt wanted to meet the president of France yesterday, because they're on the edge of war and they're looking for every way to get an ally with them or to. I don't want to go into politics. We call it dirty politics in America. They have the same phrase in Arabic, siyasa najasa. That's what it means in Arabic. And they believe it. It's dirty politics. However, I didn't like it when he said, I'm going to meet up with the president of France, because I thought, why do you want to meet the president of France? Little kids are dying in Gaza. What have they got to do with anything other than they're an enemy of Islam and they always have been. So why don't you just stick with people that might help you a bit? I mean, they were meeting, the three of them, with the King Abdullah of Jordan also. So I wasn't pleased. Well, guess what? I changed my mind. I am pleased. I like what he did. But I'm not going to go through all this about why I've changed my mind and why it's a good thing, because sometimes what appears to be a bad thing turns out to be a very good thing. So that they say that France is secular now. It doesn't have the religion of Protestant Catholic like it used to be. The French people just don't have any religion anymore, and that's what. Well, guess what? Guess what he did? I read this morning. Guess what happened? The president of France has forgiven Egypt all its debt that they owed. Not only that, but gave them millions as like a gift. France? Go figure. It's politics. And only Allah knows their motive. So as much as I don't like France for forbidding hijabs and niqabs and making a lot of problems for Muslims, do you know Ibn Taymiyyah said that this religion, our religion, Islam, will be helped by and given victory through kuffar, disbelievers. And why is that? Because you never know really what's inside a person. It's hidden. They can be hypocrites. They can lie to you. They can trick you. It's Allah who hears and knows everything. Do you know they were giving him a hard time? I don't know if you heard. I really should stop, but this is really important. They were trying to say that his wife was a tranny, the president of France's wife, because of many, many things. I won't even go into it. I think it's too tacky to even deal with. I don't like it. They spun a whole yarn about their proofs. It's really evil. It's really, not only is it impolite, it's slander. But that was last year, and this is now. So could it be that he is harboring in his heart vengeance against Yehud? I'll leave you with that today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson of rocks and trees, Christmas trees, idols. I just want to help you. I don't want to cause problems. I don't want to make you nervous. I don't want to make you confused. But the burial thing tomorrow is going to probably make you nervous because most of our burials are totally wrong in America. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.